Hey everybody, welcome to Blended Life. I'm Eric. This is my wife, Julie.
Hi, you guys.
Julie's still sick.
The last 3 episodes. It's
Yeah.
stupid.
Anyways, we're Blended Life and welcome.
Hi.
Sorry, Instagram. Looks like you're not
You're not live.
going to tune in. No?
We'll keep trying on the gram.
All right. So tonight's topics,
Oh, gosh.
lots of them, right?
Yeah. I feel like we're going to talk about kids having a say if they go to the other parents' homes.
Right.
And if age plays a factor in that. We're going to discuss pasts and dealing with pasts in your new marriages and blended families via Facebook, Instagram, things like that. And then I'm gonna read you guys an email talking. A gentleman wrote in to Blended Life asking for advice, saying he just got married, I believe. I'll read the email to you guys, but he's having a hard time blending his family.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about all that.
Understandable.
Yeah,
All right.
so we just got home from Disneyland.
Oh, yeah.
Like
A 4-day tour.
we were there for 2 days.
Well, we were there 2 days, but we were gone, 4 or 5 days? I've
Yeah.
been gone 5 days. You guys were gone 4 days.
Yeah. It was an interesting trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, what made this trip more, and I want to talk about it because it's relevant to what we're doing here. This is the first trip we went on without your son.
Yeah.
And that was, I don't know, how was that for you?
Oh, well, I want to hear your side of it first.
I already
No, really,
asked you a question.
No, it was kind of eye-opening for me, and for a couple different reasons. I'm just going to jump into the heart of it. I saw that my son was the problem, but my son also wasn't the problem. Does that make any type of sense? Like, he causes his own issues within our family vacations and our family trips, which cause me to get upset. But I also see the things that cause him to have those type of issues are still present when he's not there. So it's kind of like, it's a lot more than just him. Does that make any type of sense?
Interesting.
Yeah. How'd you feel about it?
I felt like you were missing him a lot, and that's always hard. Of course, right? You miss your kids when they're not around. I felt bad for you that he wasn't there, more than anything. But I guess I'm used to being with my family, so for me, it's just status quo. That's how we're not perfect. We have our own quirks, but I'm used to it. So I felt bad that you didn't have him there because I know you were missing him and you know what I mean? Like it was just, but I mean, it was less drama. You weren't upset and fighting the whole time. Like you guys bicker the whole time, you know, in places, but that's like, it's a hard thing. How do you get to a point where you don't include all the kids in something? And, this trip was a line you had drawn in the sand last trip.
Right.
And you had to follow through.
Right.
So that's why he didn't come along with us.
Yeah, he had misbehaved on a lot of our trips, and I see now that he's just very he voices his opinion and his thoughts a lot to me when we are out as a family, and I think a lot of it's just attention that he's trying to get because of the attention the other kids get, and I think it's his way of getting notice or getting me to notice and like, hey, I want special attention too. And and I'm not good with that. I don't let him just run and gun and just be however he wants, So I shut it down. He gets mad that I'm shutting him down, and it gets us going back and forth. And then all of a sudden we're just a big teeter-totter and we're arguing and bickering back and forth, So with that happening on the last trips, and then it gets so much further, and then all of a sudden I'm angry, he's angry, you're angry, everyone's just in a bad place. And finally I'm just like, I'm sick of dealing with this. I'm sick of doing this on our family vacations. Like, I'm over it.
And I think a lot of families, blended or not, deal with this, personalities, and it's a ripple effect. It doesn't matter whose fault or who started it. Once you have one person mad and then you have people annoyed, and then it's uncomfortable to be around. I mean, I've caused this in my work life. If I'm upset and I am in a situation in a meeting and I'm disciplining or I'm, bringing something to light, everyone else around me is immediately on guard and uncomfortable. Everyone around me is more tense. They're not relaxed. It's the same way in a family, when you are addressing issues or you're trying to really lay down the law or you're arguing with your kid and, it makes everyone else, it's not fun to be around that,
Yeah.
And I think it's a ripple effect that a lot of families, not just ours, deal with. And family vacations are something very interesting. It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to make everyone happy with all the different personalities and make sure everyone's equal and make sure everyone is, it's a hard thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Truly. So
I don't know. So future vacations coming up. I think we have a lot to discuss and to kind of talk about, how they're going to go, because do we keep leaving my son out of it? Maybe if he doesn't want to go, but I don't think that including him next time is going to change it much. Just because I still see, I not that I missed him so much when he was there. I mean, you always miss your kids when they're not there.
absolutely.
But there was a lot of times where I'm like, this would have created a problem with him and I. This would have, I know his dialect. I know him well enough that when something happened or something went on, it was like, this would have caused him to do something that would have then caused me to argue with him, and be like, hey, knock it off. I don't want to hear it. Just keep your mouth shut about this.
Yeah. Well, how can we set him up for a good family vacation then? What needs to happen?
I think what needs to happen is we need to change the way that our family dynamics work during a family vacation. And one of the biggest things, and I know we've touched on it before, but one of the biggest things is most of the time when we go on family vacations, we travel with your parents, and this kind of has nothing to do with your parents, but it turns it into it turns the ratio real weird, which I think he notices, and it kind of, it puts pressure on him, and it puts pressure on me to be like, hey, look, you're just one of 6 or 7 people. Like, you need to slow your roll and quiet down. So,
yeah.
Sorry if you can hear my buzzing noise. I'm not sure what it is. I hope it's not coming through the feed.
Yeah. Well, so how do we, but that's what I'm asking. Like, how do we change our family dynamic? I don't know what does that mean?
I'm not sure.
I hear what you're saying,
We're going to
but
need to talk about this, and I think we can make it a podcast after we've talked about this, but I think this is one of those that...
you don't have any... I didn't know if you had any,
I think we're going to get
ideas.
some negative feedback of arguments.
Are we going to have arguments?
If we discuss this live. No, but I think that you're going to dig your feet in, and I think my points and thoughts on this aren't going to be... Well, I hope that we are live. I think that our... That really just threw me off. Sorry. I think that we're gonna have a conversation about this that some people might take as argument.
Cindy doesn't hear us. I don't think we're live anymore.
Well, bummer. Sorry, you guys. I don't know what's going on with our internet. Probably needs an update. We're just gonna keep talking, and now I get to edit this. Yay.
Okay. Well, we can definitely talk about the dynamics. I was thinking about that when we got home. Like, what do you think? Oh, now we're back on.
Hey, hey guys.
I don't know what's
Sorry.
happening.
I think it's our internet. We haven't been home for 5 days, and I bet you there's an update. So I apologize to all of our live listeners.
Okay, so basically, if you were listening and it cut out, we have a lot to discuss. It looks like about family vacations and how they're going to go.
Yeah.
To have a successful vacation.
I think the bottom line is, without getting into a big discussion about it right now,
yeah,
I think you and I need to get on the same page, and we need to come up with a plan or an agenda or an itinerary that you and I stick to. I think that we let our kids dictate our vacations a lot more than we should. And I think that we need to just rein that in a bit and be like, look, this is what it is. You're either coming or going, you're staying or you're leaving. You're liking it, you're not, you're going on this or you're going on that. You're eating here, you're eating there. We give them too many decisions, and I think that's a big problem. We're creating little dictators.
Well, it is, and I don't mind planning stuff, but you have a very hard time planning things.
Yeah, but
and then it gets put on me, and I'm the one planning everything, and that makes it a dictatorship, which doesn't fly with everyone else.
I'm usually good with stuff, but when we start letting the kids have input on everything, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they're gonna argue one way or another, depending. It needs to just be like, hey, this is the way it is, and this is the way it's gonna be. Sorry. And that has to go across the board for all the kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
So interesting.
We'll have a discussion on that, and then we'll bring you guys the results.
I'm very excited. I'm like, let's just not do family vacations anymore. That's way too hard. No, but that's not fair either. That's not truly even what I want, because there's so many things I want to do with the kids and show the kids, and they're all getting really much older. They're growing up really fast, and our window to actually go do stuff as a family with everyone is closing. And it's weird when they're little, you think you have forever. And now you got high schoolers and junior high kids, and you realize that window's closing very fast to go show. I want to go to the Ark, right? I think that's in Kentucky. It is. That's something I really want to take all the kids to. I think they would all, I want to see it myself. I'd love to go see Mount Rushmore. I'd love to go to DC. I want to go experience these things with the kids before they're grown, but it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to want to shell out money and time just to wish you were at work.
Yeah, but you know what?
I'd rather be at work than on family vacation.
So we need to be like, hey guys, we're going here on this day. This is what we're going to do. And then when it becomes lunchtime, we need to be like, hey, we're going to go do this. Yeah. This is what we're doing for lunch. You're either eating or you're starving. End of discussion, right? All of our kids get their input. I want this. I want this, It needs to be like, well, we're going to decide, and this is what we're doing. Well,
and that's a lot. That happens a lot because you and I are like, I don't know what you want. I don't know what you want.
Yeah, but one of us.
So we go like that.
Yeah, but one of us need to come up with a solution. Right. And just stop passing it off to the kid, or stop even letting them have input. Even if you and I don't know, it's like, well, let's drive down here, or let's walk down here and let's find something. Not like, it just turns into one of, well, I don't want that. I want this, and I don't want that. That was our lunch on the way home. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it was like, what do you want? I want this. Well, I want this.
I know. And then what had happened was I was like, okay, we'll do what you wanted to do because you had an idea of what you wanted to do. And I said, okay, we'll just do that. And then you were like, no, but if you want that, we'll just go there.
Yeah, but you yelled it to the back seat. And then it was like, oh, well, we're going to do this. No, I want this. And it
so
went back a couple times.
We would have gone through where we
would have, yes, we would have. But we didn't have anyone. But I'm like, you know what? This isn't worth even hurting feelings. We'll all eat there. Sometimes you just do something nice for the whole family because that's what we do. Right. It's our family.
But that was an example of how it reinforces to them then. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. When you give in.
But I didn't give in like that. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to show up. We didn't tell them, okay, whatever you guys want. I was like, you know what? I know where this is, or this is closer. The next stop is going to be far away. You were going to pee your pants. So we needed to get off the road soon. Yeah. But anyways, I think
that's good. That's good advice though. If you have a blended family or you're a new blended family and you're trying to vacation, prior planning prevents piss poor performance. That's something my mom has always said. It's kind of funny, catchy, whatever. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. And it matters. It does.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Well, that's to Eric's point. And I'm a Virgo. I'm a planner. I like things planned out. I like to know what to expect. And kids really do well with also having structure and boundaries and expectations. And I always preach this, and maybe I don't do it so much on family vacations, but
it takes the argument.
I feel like I'm very much like, if I lay down the law, my kids will follow. I don't get too much
Yeah, but
pouting or yelling or whatever.
No, your kids are
if I'm like, this is what we're gonna do,
they're very quick
and
to
we
snap
do
in
what
line.
I'm gonna say we're gonna do.
Yeah, they're pretty bummed. But a lot of times you're just like, we're gonna do what the kids want to do
because it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Like last night. Let me just give a quick example. Last night we got all done at Disneyland. We were all pretty tired.
Yeah,
but we went up. We're getting dessert and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden the fireworks start going off, and I'm like, oh, this is a lot of fun. Like this could be like fun or neat, romantic, and it's not like a long journey for the kids back to the hotel room. Like it's a normal trip that we travel quite often, and it's not very far in a very secure area. And I'm like, let's go watch fireworks. And you're like, nah, the kids don't want to. So we just get up and leave. Like the fireworks are starting to go off in like the best seat in the house, and I'm like, this could be fun. This could be romantic. This could be whatever we want to make it,
Okay. Totally. I get that.
It could be anything, but you're like, nah, the kids don't want to. And we literally, or you guys literally turned up and started walking towards the door. I'm like, okay. I actually held the door for a little kid going out. I'm like, oh, I'll go out. Here we go. Oh. So, but this is where we just kind of,
but this is where you need to be like, I would really like to watch the fireworks.
Yeah, but again, like is it worth my hassle? No.
But if there's something I really want to do, I'm gonna be like, I really want to do this.
Yeah.
You never are like that.
No,
and if you
because
you let it build resentment, or now it's not an example of
it's
like
not
how
resentment
our
at all.
vacations
I'm just
go wrong.
giving you an example.
Yeah,
but I'm a very easygoing or a very easygoing person, whereas my son is still young. He's still immature and isn't that easygoing. I feel like one day he will be. One day maybe all of our kids will be. But right now, him and I get in arguments because I'm trying to be the easygoing one, and I'm trying to teach him the lesson of being easygoing. Like, look you need to be able to bend and just appreciate things. Like, you're going to have a fine time. You're going to eat just well. You'll find something you like, but you need to just be easier going. Because in life, especially as a husband, I feel like a lot of times, unless you're just a real selfish person, and I mean, moms too, you have to bend quite often, I see that look. I mean, really, like, as parents, I should have just gone there. As a parent, you need to bend a lot. Moms and dads alike both do it quite often.
Yeah.
So.
And blended families too. I mean, but that's to go back to just vacationing together. The more you can have planned out and let the kids know their expectations, and it's really hard to go and not have a plan.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing. It's a lot of pressure on the moment instead of enjoying the moment. Every minute, every lunch, every dinner, every activity, everything's so much pressure behind it.
But it's even harder to go and let the kids make the plan. Like, that's harder.
Yeah.
Because that's not just the kids getting the plan. Now the kids are arguing, the kids are competing. There's a lot of competition that goes on. Even with my kid out of the scenario, there was a lot of competition that went on for things. And they're kids. Yes, they're kids.
And their siblings.
And it doesn't matter. And in a blended family, they're siblings. But if we can take that out and be like, well, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what you have to say. When you're the adult, when you're the parent, you can then decide.
This is the sexiest speaking you've ever done. I'm really turned on right now. Just saying.
There goes my crickets.
Yeah, vacations are interesting. So maybe we do a whole podcast on it when we get our.
I think so. When we get our ducks in a row.
When we get our ducks in a row. We've done it wrong for a very long time.
And we don't get that negative feedback.
Surely we'll do it right someday.
It's kind of funny. I don't know if any of you have looked on our Apple feedback, but we have a couple of people that got really mad about one of our podcasts because they said we argued too much.
It was exhausting.
It was exhausting to watch. You know what?
It's
Blended
real,
families
though.
are exhausting, right? And I'm not going to come on here we don't come on here pre-rehearsed at all and just sugarcoat things and like that picture. What was the picture that I took for you yesterday? And they lived happily ever after. Like, that's not what you guys are going to get here. If that's what you're here for, happily ever after, like, that's the goal.
Turn off the show.
We are just lacing up our shoes.
Yeah. True story.
Yeah, really.
And that's another thing I tell people, when people struggle with blending a family, and I told this to the gentleman who emailed us in, I'll read it in a little bit, but I'm like, the word blend is an action word.
It is.
It's a verb. So it's never ending. You're never done blending your family. There's no finish line. There's no, we've made it. We're blended. You know, it is a process, kind of like marriage. You know, your wedding day is the starting gate. It's not the finish line. You know, a lot of people look at marriage as a finish line, like, oh, we got to marriage and we crossed that line and now we're just here and we're good. And it's like,
And they lived happily ever after.
that's not the case. You know, blending a family, there's so many stages in life. There's so many moving parts. Kids get older, personalities change, custody schedules, the exes, and so people think that there's just like, I'm having a hard time because we're not blended. We're not cohesive. We're not here right now. And it's just like, well, it takes time. You have to have patience. You have to have a lot of grace. And it's always imperfect. You're never going to have a perfect blended family. So the more you can accept that and just take it day by day, issue by issue, and conquer things along the way and celebrate the wins, you know, don't discount the small wins. Don't discount if you all got to sit down at dinner without fighting one night. Or whatever, you know, whatever your small win is.
Or yeah. No, they all add up and they all equal success.
That's true.
Yeah. You know,
and yeah.
Oh no, go for it. And after your point, can we just jump into this guy's
email?
Because I'm really kind of curious on it.
Yeah, we can. I just want to say one more thing about vacations. I think that there's no right answer to vacations. I think vacations are hard. And I think that in a blended family, as much as you need to promote relationships across the board, like you need to allow your spouse to have alone time with their own children. Okay. That's as much as you want it all to be together as a family. You need to, it's okay to have different experiences with different sets of kids in your home, with your own kids, with your stepkids, with, you know, no kids. You don't have to do everything together all the time. If that works for you, that's awesome. There's just no one way. I just don't want people to feel guilty. Like if you want to take a vacation, you know, we've gone places with just Jared.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what's
and that's it's fine to leave my kids back too. I don't have a problem with that. It's okay to go make memories with different, you know, situations.
Yeah. You know something
Truly.
else I'd like to let's note when we do our family or our vacation podcast. Let's figure out, because I'm sure everyone else struggles with this, and I don't know if we even struggle with this or we just put it to the side.
Yeah.
But something that I know you'd probably enjoy even more than I would, but let's try to figure out how to create romance on an entire blended family trip. Like how can we somehow stay connected on a blended family trip? Because even though my kid wasn't there, I still felt not completely. We were at like a 70-30 ratio of like being connected on this trip. Like 70% of your attention goes into the kids and the situation, and I get about 30% of it, you know, which is what it is. But let's figure out how to change that ratio a little bit and connect a little better, you know?
Yeah.
And I think by us leading together and leading the pack, I think that will help part of it. But let's also, when we come back with this podcast, let's try to figure out a solution for that, where we don't go out there and we don't have a completely split blended family and we're just like, this is like vacationing together, like the roommate situations, you know, scenario. Like, let's try to figure out how to make it work for us, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Just
I have a lot to say on that.
I know.
Okay.
Let's work on that.
All right. So an email. I'm going to keep names out of it because I didn't get permission to disclose names.
Okay. So
we're not going to say names, but.
Can we give him a nickname?
No, because I'll mess it up. I can't do that. So he writes in and says, my name is blank. I have so many questions for being in a blended family. I have 3 boys from 2 different marriages that ended in a divorce. Since my last marriage, I took time to myself and focused on myself and my 2 boys. 2 years later, I had met someone that has opened my eyes to different things and also has 2 girls of her own. The only issue we are having is trying to blend our family together. We argue about our kids and how to talk to them and how to discipline without overstepping the boundaries. We want our families to come together as one. If you guys can help, we would really appreciate it. So let's talk about the two main things he brings up,
Yeah.
right? They argue about how to talk to their kids and how to discipline them.
Yeah. We've been down both those roads.
How to talk to each other's children and how to discipline each other's children without overstepping boundaries.
Yeah. You know what? I think the number one goal when talking to your kids is being able to get it on the same page that you can talk to either set of kids, your biological kids or your stepchildren, the same way. I think when the kids come into the household, the main goal is to not have a divide, being able to stay even keel with discipline, with attitude, with, not favoring a kid, but I think just being able to be like, hey, it's bath time, and being able to tell both sets of kids that, hey, it's bath time, or we're having this for dinner. And, maybe the other kid runs to biological parent, it's like, hey, I don't care what your biological parent says. Like, this is what we're doing. I think it's about getting them on the same page. And again, like that comes back to us.
Yeah. I think being able to talk to the kids is the same. I think where you run into problems though, it's like I can talk crap about my own mom, but nobody else better talk crap about my own mom.
Right.
And I think that mentality carries over into blended families. And so, it's like I can be mad at my kids and I can talk a certain way to my kids.
But as soon as you do.
But if I were to talk to your kids the way you talk to your kids, or you were to talk to my kids the way I talk to my kids, I think it's like, it's off-putting.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, you don't talk to them like that. And I don't think it's intentional. I think it's just something that we have innate within us. We come programmed that way to just be protective, and so I think that's where, that's the dream, is to walk into the home and then everyone can talk to everyone, like everyone talks to everyone else. That's like the unicorn.
Right.
I don't think that's reality. I don't think that it's really, really hard when you have discipline differences. How I discipline my kids is very different how you discipline your kids.
Yeah.
Things that are a big deal to me that you were like, well, I wouldn't punish my kid for that. My kids would lose everything for 5 days. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, yes, it would be lovely if everyone was on the same page and everyone was like, we believe everything together and this is a big deal and this isn't a big deal and we totally agree. I just don't think that's a lot of times what happens when you do that. So then what do you do when you do disagree?
Yeah.
Like if I were to call your son names,
sometimes he is those names.
However, like I would never call my own children that. Like that's not how what I
You make it sound like I just call him names.
No,
I don't call him names.
Example.
I'm
Or
you're being like this. You need to knock it off. That's me getting stern. That's me being pushed to my end of my wits.
But you don't talk to my kids
and
like
be
that.
Like, yeah, but your kids usually don't push me there. In the other.
Is that because you tune them out?
No, I don't think I need to. I think your kids tune us out way before we tune them out.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But your kids are good at that. Your kids are good at getting in the zone and just zoning out. My kid doesn't zone out. Maybe every so often, but he's pretty much alive and present. You and I aren't going to have a conversation on the car ride home without him hearing it. You and I could have had 20 conversations on the car ride home, and your kids wouldn't have heard it. One's got headphones on, watching iPad, the other one's sleeping, or they zone out. They do their own things.
Yeah.
They're content being in a little bubble by themselves. Whereas my kid will listen to it. He'll get in on it. He does his own thing, but he's very, very aware of his surroundings. He hears everything. If you and I have a conversation in this house loud enough for him to hear, he's going to listen to it. Right now, if he were here, he'd know what we're talking about on our podcast. Your kids probably have zero idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That's
true.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So they're completely different kids. I'm not saying either one is right or wrong. Neither's better than the other. I'm just saying he's more aware, and that's what creates that issue.
Yeah.
So
I know. But so what do you do, like, when you're not on the same page about discussing things, like,
you need to get there. We need to get there.
We need to get there.
Yeah. You really like.
Don't you think there's some form of acceptance though? And
Well,
just letting people be?
Yeah,
like,
but that's like a really like brush it under the rug way of thinking. Like, yeah, you can accept it.
Or agree to
for
disagree.
a little while. Yeah. As long
like
as
our marriage counselor says, why can't you guys just agree to disagree?
Yes, if you can get there. But sometimes people, especially children, don't agree to disagree. They remember, like, well, they got this, they got that. It's kids add up sometimes, whereas adults, we're a lot more mature. We can agree to disagree. It's a lot harder to get a kid to that point.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, though, the adults.
Yeah.
Like talking to each other's kids
Oh,
without overstepping boundaries. That was this guy's question.
Yeah.
Like disciplining kids without overstepping boundaries. Well, first of all, if you guys have set boundaries, that should be your guide.
yeah. But the other thing is, too, if the kids are living under your household or under your roof, mom or dad, whoever you are, I think you do have a role to discipline the kids. And whether the other parent likes it or not, I mean, it's one thing if you take it too far, but I think it is acceptable to discipline the kids. Otherwise, you are living two separate families under one roof.
Yeah.
And to me, as a blended family, and this is just my opinion, but that's not acceptable. You guys owe it to yourselves to get everyone on the same page. You're creating this new family. Make it one family. Don't make it two separate families.
Yeah. And something else that you need to everyone and us too need to keep in mind, it's only like words are great. Like you can have plans and you can have boundaries set and you can have all these conversations about being on the same page and what that looks like. But the reality is it's trial and error. It's actually doing the work and it's practicing. Habits are hard to break. Disciplining habits, how you talk to people, engaging. Like we all are comfortable what we're comfortable with. And when you are trying to blend and you're pushed out of your comfort zone because you're being asked to do things differently than you would normally do it, it just takes practice. It takes stepping out of your comfort zone and just doing it even when you don't want to.
Right.
Even if you don't want to engage, even if you don't want to discipline, even if you don't want to hug someone or talk to someone, you still do it. And then the more you do it, it becomes habit. And then you'll start reaping the rewards of all those boundary lines you've created, all of those talks you had. Because I think a lot of people think, oh my gosh, we had the big scary talk.
Yeah.
And we're done.
And now it's all fine.
And that's not the case. Again, that's your starting gate. Those big, hard talks that you have, the agreements you make, the same page you agree to be on is only as good as what follows that conversation. And that's when people learn to trust each other in marriage.
It's all just a work in progress. You're going to continue to work on it. It's always going to take a little bit of tweaking. Every situation is going to be a little bit different.
Right.
And you're always just working towards the end game of just getting closer and being a better blended family.
Totally. It's like having an infant, right? You have to trial and error to death to get that baby to stop crying. Blended families, you've never been a parent before the first time you're a parent, right? You've never been in a blended family before until the first time you're in a blended family. And so it takes a lot of even what we think may work may not work in your family. It may not even, what we think may not even work in our own family until we've tried it.
Right.
And then if it doesn't work out, then you go on to the next thing. Well, what else can we try?
Or it's back to the drawing board. Like, how can we change this up a little bit,
Yeah. So even if you have to be flexible, and that's a really good lesson too, forever. Even if what you think is going to work doesn't work, be okay with being wrong and going back and trying again for the good of the family. A lot of people get mad that they're wrong.
Yeah.
And they don't want to try again.
Right.
We both are like that.
Yeah, or you just want to walk away from the situation. You're just like, you know what? I'm so sick of this. I'm out of here. Like, I'm walking away from this.
We've both done this. We've both been so over situations where, truly, we just don't want to do it anymore. And then that's, why are we doing this at all?
Well, then it's just a disservice to everyone. You're just like, well, I give up,
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
So I think that, I mean, start there. You need to have the conversations. You need to get on the same page. You need to try, and then just realize it's a process. Realize it's a forever process. It's forever trial and error. And when you figure out one issue, another one arises. So you got to tackle that burning bush over there once you've just put the other one out over on your right, So just take heart. You're in it for the long haul. It's kind of like marriage too. It ebbs and flows. It's great. It's awful. It's wonderful. It's messy. Right? Like you got to go with it.
Yeah, completely.
So, that was kind of, I just told him about that, you're blending. It's forever.
It is. Yeah. And just keep working at it,
chipping away.
Find little things that work, and also just listening, because a lot of times you might be doing something that you think is working, but your partner might be telling you another thing.
Yeah.
And just keep listening, even when you think and you know how everything is, just keep listening.
Yeah, for sure. All right, T. Well, so before we get to the next thing, in our Blended Life support group on our Facebook page, if you aren't in it and you want to be in it, go join. You have to answer a couple questions or I won't accept you. It's just super easy. But one of the topics that's been coming up sometimes is what do you do if your child doesn't want to go to the other household? So
that's a good one.
It is. And for me, I think it's age dependent, right? If you've got a 3-year-old or 4 or 5, if you've got someone who's not a teenager who doesn't want to go see their other parent and there's no abuse, I mean, it's just because they don't want to go or they don't like someone, there's nothing actually bad happening. I think that you need to force that and force their hand to go.
Yeah, because they need to build that relationship. And a lot of times the kids just get comfortable in the household that they're in. How's the kid act when they come home? Are they just like, I am so glad to be home. I never want to go there again. Like that's always one of those things that you're like, if you look at the whole picture, a lot of times it's just they've gotten comfortable. Now if they get home and they're like, I never want to go back there again, then you need to have a conversation with them and kind of figure out why they never want to go back there again and what that issue is. But maybe the kid's just comfortable and they're just like, I really just don't want to be disrupted. I like how things are going. I like my neighborhood friends. I like the activities I have at home, whatever it may be. But kids need to build relationships, and I think the parents are owed relationships with their children. If a parent's willing to put in the time to have a relationship with their kid, whether the kid likes it or not at that stage in life, I think the parents are kind of owed that too. And the kids are going to grow up and make their own decisions. They're either going to hit 18, 20, 30, whatever, and they're going to say, I really enjoy this relationship that I've built with my parents, or they're going to go the opposite direction. But I think everyone's kind of owed the chance to build those relationships.
Yeah. I think that it's natural for kids to have a favorite home to be at. One home has Xbox, the other one has
Disneyland.
Disney Plus. I don't know, which do you prefer? I think in that ebbs and flows, I think as kids go through stages in life, which household they want to be in. And then they use the households against each other, too. One household is stricter than the other household, and I can get away with more at mom's house and I can't get away with anything at dad's house. And also maybe the sibling relationships, maybe one side of household has step siblings that they don't really want to be around, and the other household, they have more time and space alone. Maybe they share rooms in one household, and in the other household, they don't have to share rooms.
One thing you made me think of, though, is as it, kind of changes throughout time, something we've learned a lot about is kids crave different things and need different things as they get to different stages, boys and girls, throughout their lifetime. Mm-hmm. So as teenagers,
right,
the boys draw closer to their mothers. Is that right? I don't know. So anyways, there's like a formula for it, and
we don't know it, but there is one.
Know it, but it makes sense when you hear it. I don't know. Maybe you can get that and share it just to help some people. But that kind of helped us understand where our kids were at the time. Like for instance, my son right now, so it's the teenagers. My son right now should be on a path of pulling away from me a little bit more, going more towards his mom. versus his dad. And these are his teenage years as he starts to get in that age. And that's got to be all right. You know, you have to learn to accept that and just be there for your kids. But your kids are going to go through stages where they want you very close and they want you really far.
Yeah.
Which you're kind of at that stage right now too, you know?
Yeah.
It changes.
Yeah. And I will say as a mom, my biggest fear is either one of my kids not wanting to be in our home at all. That would be the most heartbreaking thing that can happen to me. And so when I see people write in, however, but we're a loving household. The kids are blessed to be in our home, and we're good people. So I don't feel like, I think that when I read stories, I have to keep it in context because, you know, somebody says my 15-year-old doesn't want to go to his dad's house or her dad's house because they hate the stepmom. And it's a really, you know, it's whatever horrific situation it is. And I'm like, oh, we don't have that situation in our home. Thank goodness, because that would really be hard. It would really be heartbreaking. And so I see both sides of it. Like when you have a teenager, I think little kids, you just have to kind of like, you have to go.
You go now.
Teenage years are hard because the courts give kids a say in the teenage years. You know, if a kid were to go to court and is 14, 15, 16, 17 and say, I don't want to be with mom or dad anymore, and they have a valid reason.
I'd say they have to have a valid reason and it has to make sense.
But courts will listen to kids.
Yeah. But it has to make sense. It can't be like, well, I just don't like it over there. You know, I don't want to be around that parent. Like, oh, well.
Yeah. But I think if courts and so just know that too when you're trying to decide what to push your child on, and also try to understand the circumstance. And teenagers are emotional, and teenagers are moody, and teenagers are hormonal, and you know. So part of me is like, I've heard both arguments on our Facebook group. You know, one was like, you know, she's got littler kids, not teenagers, but she forces that relationship because even if they don't want to go, because she feels like one day they'll appreciate it, or she wouldn't have to. I'm all for that. Like, don't stand in the way, because kids will blame parents later on in life for everything that goes wrong. And so if you're doing, you know, like it wasn't you that cock blocked your kid from their mom or dad.
Can I bleep that one out?
It's a saying. Calm down. Calm down.
Calm down.
It's a saying. So anyway, you know, I see that side, but then I also see like if your kid really doesn't want to go, is it worth the fight every week? And I get how exhausting it can be to fight with someone over the same thing,
but also
every week.
But don't
don't
let a fight be created. Like, don't sit there and like probe at your kid. Like, well, why don't you want to go? And have them fabricate some big old reason why they don't want to go. You know, don't play into it and allow them to stir up bigger issues than what are really going on in their household, and be like, you know, you have to go there or you don't. You know, don't sit there and try to be like, well, you know, is daddy mean to you? You know, does stepmom hate you?
That's called leading. Do not lead with questions.
Yeah.
Don't. Yes. Oh, do they hurt you? Do they lock you in your room?
Are they
do you
mean
not
to you?
eat over there? Parents do that, and then kids are like, and they're not even saying anything. You're saying everything.
That's it.
Do not lead your kids down that path.
Just don't do it. Like,
don't.
It's, you know, I've seen it before. I've been around it before.
Yeah.
And it's not constructive. And it's no good for anyone.
That's very true.
But what it does is it kind of takes these kids down this rabbit hole of emotions that they don't realize are there, because it's kind of not really happening. So now they're having to deal with these issues that aren't really issues.
Yeah.
And they're trying to navigate through this already hard part of life.
Yeah.
Through these weird issues and thoughts and feelings that aren't really even happening.
Yeah.
You know, like, unless your kid's coming home with like just stinking, you know, skinned up, bruised up, not from being kids, but like from getting like hurt or injured, you know. Oh, I don't know. I feel like as parents, we kind of know. We know the other parent, you know, we made kids with them at one point in time. You know, do you truly feel that your kid is in harm's way by being at the other house? Dig deep down in yourself. Ask yourself this question. Is their other parent truly a threat to their health?
And I would, it's funny to me because people have these like big accusations and then there's no adult conversation. You're only conversing with the child. And if I found out that either one of my children were hurt in any way in the other home, you best believe I'd be knocking on that door until we had conversations about what was going on, the accusations that were made, and what was being said, and get to the bottom of it as adults. Because if kids are going to bring up stuff and have legit reasons not going to the other home, I think it's the responsible thing to do to sit. I don't care if you hate them, loathe them. It doesn't matter. It's not about you. You talk to the other parent, the other biological parent, and you figure out what the heck is going on. And I always say, like, kids need consistency, so always changing custody schedules is stupid. Stop it. And I think until they're 18, unless you can go to court and change your custody schedule because you have a valid reason, there's abuse. And even then, the court system's stupid. I have nothing good to say about it.
Well, and just if your kid comes home with a bump, a bruise, a scrape, or anything, also don't just jump to this like, did daddy hit you or did mommy push you or anything? Like, for instance, right before our wedding, your daughter came home with the biggest scab on her forehead.
It was probably the size. It
was probably the size of a nickel. It was pretty good. It's still little. Scarred to this day, this happened almost 2 years ago, So you could have been that parent that's like, did daddy push you? Like, and freak out. But instead, you're like, what happened? And like, how did this happen? And you talk to the other parent. No, she was being a goofy little kid.
She tripped over her own shoe and got rug burn on her forehead.
Fell face first like a Muppet with her hands behind her and got funny. Rug burn, Yeah. So you get to the bottom of the story without leading the kids and without jumping to conclusion because accidents do happen. I mean, my son, before his mom and I were separated, literally just fell off of the bed onto, remember the old school, like Nokia style phone chargers, big old phone charger. He fell off the bed and just smashed his face up as a little baby. Now, if we were at that point separated in a blended family, I could be like, what did you do? You dropped him off the bed. You threw him off. Like, no, accidents happen. Sometimes kids just get hurt.
Yeah.
You hear of more children breaking their arms and breaking their legs than you do adults. Now, old people, it happens because you start getting fragile.
It's usually hips.
But kids get hurt.
Yeah, and I think, too, kids are really, especially kids in blended families, are master manipulators. They learn to get what they want from who they want, and they already are looking for a sense of control. And they all are. They all learn how to manipulate. They all really, really try hard to do so. And I don't mean to paint an evil picture. It's not that way. It's just survival of the fittest, right?
Well, and it's
just
an attention thing,
So, and I think that you need to be mindful that kids manipulate parents to get what they want, to stay in the household they want, and they pull our heartstrings and say sob stories. And, I think about later on in life when they have jobs and they're in college and they're out on their own, they're not going to really have mom and dad to manipulate to change it for them. They're going to really have to do it themselves. So I think making kids have to go to not a lesser household, but a household they like less, and have to go learn to deal with the relationships or what is lacking in that household, and to endure that as long as there's no, like I said, abuse or neglect or anything really wrong going on over there. It's not a bad thing for kids to learn to adapt in different. This is one of the blessings about a blended family. Blended families aren't all bad.
But I don't know if all states are like this, but this is one of the biggest things that drives me so crazy about child support. Now, I know it's one thing.
We're not even talking about child support.
No, but I'm going to take it there because I know a lot of people can relate with this. You're just saying a lesser family. Now, what they do is they have child support on this crazy scale. We were listening to that, one of those songs today, the Gold Digger song.
Kanye West, Gold Digger.
But anyways, about the guy driving, winning the Super Bowl and leaving in his Hyundai.
you know way more about this song than me.
Yeah, right. Don't act like that. But so that way the kids can have this equal lifestyle when they go to both homes. And that way it's even. It's like, no, you need to understand that when you go to one or the other homes, this is, again, just my opinion. If, mom or dad isn't doing so good, but other mom or dad is doing great, like, learn that that's just because of how, situations are, either how hard they work or how they were raised, who they are as people, decisions they've made in life. Like, life isn't fair. Life is what you make of it. Life is what you get out of it and, what you put into it.
Yeah.
And so this child support thing that the kids have to have this even family household and, mom or dad has to pay mom or dad because, we need everything to be even across the board. Like, I think that's a crock. Like, let the kids learn life decisions. So I'm just standing on my soapbox preaching, but I think it's all right for kids to see, like you said, a lesser.
I think it's okay for kids to see that people live different lives.
Yeah.
Kids, and it opens their lives up to, one of the great things about blended family life is that experiences, my kids have experiences, your kids have experiences that they don't have with us in their other homes.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. We don't like to camp. So they all.
You don't like to camp.
You like to camp?
Yeah, I used to camp a lot before I met you.
We can camp. It's a lot of work, but we can camp.
It's a lot of work.
Is it not?
Yeah, no, it is, but it's,
It's super fun.
But you get everyone into it.
Big fun. Okay, we're camping. Or 4-H, something like that. There's different things that.
I'm not going to make any jokes.
There's different things that kids get to experience in different households, and that's a blessing. And I think what will help you guys get through blended family life is to really start counting the blessings of it. There's a lot of it's no doubt super hard, but there's a lot of good and a lot of good for the kids and a lot of life lessons and life skills they learn in blended family life that will serve them well when they're adults, and a lot more maturing that they will do. Do we have time for one more thing?
Sure. I was going to make it a quick one. We got places to be. We're going to volunteer tonight.
We are volunteering
and help out
tonight.
with feeding some homeless families. I think it'll be a rewarding thing. So that's why our issue or what is this, an episode, is at an awkward, weird time. And again, we are unprepared. So I apologize for that.
So, because I didn't ask permission again, I'm not saying names, but I'm going to read a comment that was left on our YouTube channel and we'll talk about it.
Can I make up a fun name for this one?
No.
Oh.
Yes, what?
Sorry, Buzz Lightyear. I won't call you by name.
So basically this is having to do with, I don't even remember what episode, it doesn't say, but,
Buzz Lightyear.
Buzz Lightyear says, I would love our team of parents to be on the same page. We are vastly different from the other parents, and one day I'll share our whole story with you. I love your logo and how the 3 sides represent the family unit. Thank you very much. That was my darling husband who came up with that. In regards to passwords, so this is sharing passwords in your marriage to social media, phones, things like that. She says, my hubby and I are both open books and have shared everything. We both have immense issues with trust, and this does help us. So that's interesting. So it helps to share passwords and let each other in your social media lives. She said, but it also can cause some strife and struggles. Like when I look through his Facebook memories, I need to work on that. I'm also like Julie regarding getting too emotional on holding on to it, especially with the kiddos. I know it's not healthy and would love more tips and tricks on how you handle these situations.
Yeah, well, real quick to the memories thing, maybe, and it might be so hard, and you admitted working on it, but maybe you have to be like, all right, this is the date we started, and I won't ever go past that, because we all have past, we all have children from other families, or from other people, and whatever your ties are,
We've all had sex with other people.
Well, yeah, or animals. So I wasn't going to call you out, but here we go.
Oh, yes, because I'm the one that can do that.
Hey, there's some
wild
there's some wild things on the internet.
Oh, dear.
You ever been to Mexico?
Oh, my gosh. Okay,
Anyways,
continue going on.
I wrote a
with
song
your
about
point.
this. I don't even have a point anymore, other than you shouldn't go past where you guys started. And you know what? If it's creating an insecure thing and you're just digging to find something, maybe just stop that too, because people that are usually digging to find something and aren't finding something, they're usually going to dig until they can find something to fabricate or get just completely jealous about in their own minds and create an issue that is never there or never was there. And, maybe things just a lot of times get misconstrued. Like you and I had a situation once where something got so misconstrued that it probably could have, if I would have been just an extremely jealous person and I would have flipped out, I kind of did flip out, but I listened to you and like the situation was just weird. It was taken wrong. It was completely out of context. You kind of had no hand in it really, but it you're not knowing what I'm
Like I
talking.
didn't provoke it.
You didn't provoke it. It just happened. And it was like part of it was kind of coincidence, but also I had to step back and be like, is this truly who she is? Is this truly the type of person that she is or pretends to be? Or, it wasn't you. The situation was just odd and off, and I could have just kept digging into it. But instead, I'm like, all right, let's just see how this goes from here on out. Let's see how you handle this. Let's see how everything gets handled. And it just kind of works itself out. Or it doesn't. Like, I feel like in your heart, you truly know. If you're just digging to dig, a lot of times it's for a reason.
Yeah. I think that and you can make something out of nothing.
That's
so this is why I don't look through Eric's phone.
Nor would you want to.
Exactly.
I'm just kidding.
No, because
but you're
I think
able to
that,
at any point in time.
But I think that the way my mind works and knowing my personality, it's a rabbit hole I don't want to go down. And also, it's an act of trust not to do that kind of thing. And I take pride in that. That's me, my personality. I'm not saying that anybody who shares their phones back and forth is wrong. But at the beginning of
relationships, it's a really weird place to be in. Like a lot of times people are trying to figure out their trust and learn their trust. Like I know at the beginning of our relationship, you and I both had a little bit of trust issues. We'd been in some situations and it's hard to get to that point where you need to trust people, but you're not going to be able to control the other person. So you either need to be like, can I live a life of trusting this person? Or am I constantly going to be digging, looking for dirt on this person? Because that's not a lifestyle you want to live. Mm-hmm. So you have to learn just to let go and trust your partner.
Yeah, and something that happens, it's no fun to see a past you weren't a part of with your present and future person. That's it's not fun. It's not fun to hear families talk about the ex and memories with the ex and the ex and the ex is always our exes are in our daily lives and conversation and texts and it's
and that can draw up jealousy as it is also.
But the thing that helps me, or if you're feeling insecure about interactions that are going on with your spouse and another person or whatnot, or when you're looking at pictures of the past, and you're like, oh, you're getting jealous. What I do is I always remind myself I have a past too.
I just stand in the mirror and take off my clothes.
No. But really, you're so invested in what you're looking at and you're going down that rabbit hole of jealousy. And it's like, step back and remember, you had sex with other people. You made babies with other people. Somebody else was when your delivery, was in the delivery room with you when your children were being born, not your husband. You know what I mean? So as much as you like to put it on the one person and all this happened before me, well, so much happened with you before him, and keep in mind that you don't know if he or she also feels the same way. And if, and so maybe delete, can you you can hide stuff from Facebook too. But also if
Facebook is creating that much of an issue,
delete it.
Is it worth it? I don't even know if you delete it, but is it even worth it? Well, yeah, or just put it aside. But at the end of the day, let me just leave them with this. At the end of the day, be secure with the person you're with. Like if you're with your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, be secure that they choose you and you choose them, and let that be enough. And just trust in them. And if you know you can't trust in them, then something else needs to change. But stop digging and stop looking for things if it's not plain in sight.
Do something more useful with your time. Like go to the gym, read a book, pray, watch a funny Hallmark movie that makes you feel good. Like
leave a 5-star comment.
Yeah, don't go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Do something else. Do something better. Do something that betters you and makes you happy. Go hug your child.
Go hug your spouse. Tell them you love them. Tell them you trust them. Tell them you found this wonderful podcast that you're gonna
and then bend them over the table.
Wow. Okay. We're going to church now. Hey, you guys, it was nice hanging out with you tonight. Julie is now feeling better. And subscribe, like,
people
leave those
just turned
5-star
off. It's funny.
reviews. Yeah, there goes all of our watchers. But thank you guys for tuning in.
We'll see you next week.
For The Blended Life. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
It's okay, we're done.
Well, we're not. Bye.
Oh.